Hi everyone, welcome back to Cottoverdi. My name's Annette and today I've got a couple of jobs that I need to do in the garden and I thought I would bring you along with me. First of all, I have a plant to add to this border behind me where we've planted these large obelisks. Giant obelisks. They make me so happy. If you haven't seen the video of us putting them up, then do give that a watch because I am overjoyed with how wonderful they look. Anyway, I'm missing a plant in this bed and it's arrived, so I'm going to put that in. I'm also going to be tying in my roses today and I'm going to show you how I tie in the climbing roses. And then there is a tree that I need to chop a broken branch off and I'm probably going to have to give that a prune. And there is some sweet William that is making me very unhappy because I really don't like the colour. It doesn't go with anything in that border, so I'm either going to dig it out and bin it or I'm going to move it. I have a feeling I'm going to bin it. Anyway, those are the things that I need to get done today and I thought I'd bring you along with me whilst I get those jobs tackled. Let me show you what's going on in this bed behind me and the plant that has arrived. So this is a border that we planted up very recently and this side here is the northern side. Obviously then that's the southern side. So on the northern side of the border, over here I've planted a hydrangea and it's called Laneth White and it's absolutely gorgeous. It's one of the lace top hydrangeas that have sort of flat flowers and then the centre of the flower is either blue or pink depending upon what your soil is. But I only had one and I didn't realise, I thought I had two. So I only had one. I had one that I planted here and I've got one that has arrived that I'm going to plant in front of this obelisk here. So let's get on with opening up this box. So this is a super healthy plant. It looks exactly the same as the other one that I've got. Let's just put this in the ground now. So I'm just going to move the mulch out of the way and try and plant it at the same level as the other one. So I think it's about here. And then I'm just going to be putting some plant food in the bottom. I always do this whenever I'm planting something new. And I've planted it at exactly the same height. So I actually have another one of the hydrangeas. I've got another Laneth White. So I tend to try to repeat certain plants, not everything, but I repeat certain plants throughout the garden because I really feel like it gives the garden a rhythm and that way sort of the colours continue and the shapes and patterns continue and it just makes the whole garden feel more together, like more one whole rather than individual different flower beds. So there are certain plants that I have repeated throughout the garden. One of them is the Aleagnus Quicksilver, which I adore. I adore for the perfume and the colour of the foliage. The other one are the Phytocarpus or the 9 barks. So I've got a red one called Lady in Red and I've repeated that in 3 different areas of the garden, 1 plant in each. And I've also got one called Darts Gold, which has got limey green leaves, and I've repeated that. You can't see them all at the same point, generally speaking, but when you get to each area it's nice to have something that is similar to draw your eye, and it's sort of, I don't know, it's just a little bit like a jigsaw. I really feel like it helps. So I'm planting, the obelisks are behind this yew here, they're in that bed there by the seating area, the patio, and so I've got one Laneth White next to each obelisk, and just further down, and you won't be able to see them at the same time. Oh, the other thing I've got a repeat of is the Viburnum opulus, and you can see those, most of them at the same time, but I've actually got 5 of those in my garden at the moment. I love them. But anyway, so the other Laneth White I'm going to be popping into this flower bed here in the shade of this yew tree. So this spot here I have kept because the sun comes round and it works its way around the garden. So this yew tree here, and in fact it will be hopefully an arch one day, it creates quite a big puddle of shade for a lot of the morning and some of the afternoon. So I'm going to put another hydrangea here, and I think it's just going to, again, it's going to help with the rhythm. So I've got another one I'm just going to pop into this bed. So you'll see that this bed is currently full of dahlias. It's got larkspur and melope and snapdragons and cosmos in it. Anyway, the Laneth White is going to grow 1.2 metres tall by 1.2 metres wide. So it's going to be about 4 foot by 4 foot. So I'm going to plop it here, and it's going to hopefully make a really nice feature just here, right next to the yew. Well, you can see the viburnums behind me have finished flowering for the season, so I will be doing some pruning in the future, but they were absolutely glorious. I'll put pictures up of how fantastic they looked just a week or so ago before the rains. We've had terrible, terrible weather and masses of slug problems and snail problems. Anyway, let's go and have a look at this Sweet William that's upsetting me. I'm standing here next to the pergola. This is where we planted a couple of roses and some gorgeous Guernsey cream clematis earlier on, and this is my Queen of Sweden border. So you can see they're just starting to flower. There's one of the Physocarpus Lady in Red that I was talking about earlier, and there's the Darts Gold Physocarpus, or 9-box, they're 9-box. Anyway, this border is predominantly pink, and I don't know whether you can see over there, there is a crimson, bright red Sweet William, and it's just so wrong. It's too garish for this border, which should be much more muted and soft, and it just is jarring so much, and I need to dig it out. So I'm hoping that you can see with the soft pink, and it's a fairly soft red 9-bark behind it. So this is the Queen of Sweden rose. That crimson over there is just too much. It's actually a little bit bigger than I thought it was. I thought I was going to be able to dig it out with just my trowel. I may have to go and get a spade to get it out. Oh. Ah, I've actually got the name. It's called Scarlet Beauty. It's not my colour scheme at all. So I obviously sowed this from seed. I must have sown it last year. As in, I must have sown it in 2022 for flowering in 2023. And it looks like I had 3 plants here. I mean, they're not very deeply rooted. Oh no, I've got 4 plants. I mean, that colour is possibly great in different areas, but I don't think I've got anything that colour of scarlet in my garden. So that is so much better, so much more pleasing. So I'm here under the massive rose arch, and I've got 2 roses planted on either side. So this rose over here is called the Generous Gardener. It's a lovely pink rose. And this one here is called Claire Austin, which is a lovely cream coloured rose. And then I have exactly the same thing over on this side. They're not quite as tall, and I have a feeling it's because that side gets a little bit more sun, maybe. But these are absolutely festooned with buds, but I can see that they're drooping, and some of them are even lying on the floor. So I need to tie these in, and it's a really good idea to stay on top of any of your climbing roses because as long as we train them horizontally, they'll just produce more and more blooms. So I tied in sort of the one stem that grew last year horizontally, and that's why it's produced so many buds this year. So this is only its second season. Last year they really didn't put on that much growth, and I do think that that is because they were just making lots of roots. Let me show you what I'm dealing with here. So it's absolutely covered with buds at the top, but also down below. But everything down here is sort of hanging down rather than growing upwards. So I need to pull everything upwards. I do not want it growing downwards at all. So that is what I'm going to tackle today. So I just use ordinary garden twine to tie in my roses. I like the fact that it's biodegradable, and I like the fact that I can put it on my compost heap when I've finished with that piece, etc, etc. So that's why I use garden twine. I also think that it's gentle on the roses. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to untie where I had it tied in before, because I think that's what's pulling it downwards. And then I'm going to grab hold of this branch here, this stem. I'm just going to gently, if I can. It's another good reason to do it now whilst they're growing, because the stems are much less brittle, much less inclined to snap and break. So this one is coming round the corner here, and I'm going to tie it in up here. Now the other thing I'm doing is I'm tying it to the post as well as the crossbar, because I really don't want it to start sliding that way in the wind. So I'm going to make sure that it comes this way. I also think with the garden twine that because it's a natural thing, it doesn't stand out so much if you can just see a bit of it. So anywhere where I can see an upright stem, I'm going to tie it into something, because the roses, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. There are 11 buds on this one stem, and if it rains, that's going to put a lot of strain on that stem. And so I want to make sure that it is sort of held up by something. So I'm just going to tie everything in. I'm not actually training the roses at this point. I'm literally just tying them in so that they can support the weight of all those roses, because there are going to be so many blooms and I just don't want them flopping in the wind and the rain. So I'm not tying anything in like right up against the post. I'm still trying to let it look natural and have some movement when it is windy. And you know, this doesn't bother me because it's all natural fibre. I know that some people may think it looks really messy, but when everything's in bloom, you're just not going to see that. Now I'm just going to do exactly the same thing to the Claire Austin on this side. I'm just going to tie it in so that the buds don't weigh the plant down. To be fair to Claire Austin, it looks a little bit less likely that this one will get weighed down. Like the blooms seem to be holding their own. So I feel like that side is tied in pretty well. There's still one rose just over here in the corner that's drooping down a bit, but that one's practically finished flowering. But I think everything else is going to be properly supported. Now I just need to focus on this side. So we're having a disaster down here at the bottom. I need to lift this up quite urgently. So the first thing I'm going to do is hoist all of these up by tying a line up there, and then I'll figure out how else I can best support them. So this is the Generous Gardener. And this is Claire Austin. So on either side of the arch, I've got a Boscobel. This is Boscobel in bud. Okay, so last job of the day. This is Prunus Jacqueline. It had gorgeous blossoms. It only blossomed, I think, on the bottom half and not the top half. And actually, we've had a bit of a disaster. So it's only its second year and I haven't pruned it. And it clearly needs some pruning because one of the branches snapped in some wind we had the other day. And I need to deal with that. So let's go and tackle the branch that broke. Let me show you. Okay, so we're around the other side, and this massive branch here has completely broken off at the top up there. I need to prune that back, otherwise it's going to just keep tearing at the trunk. This is such a shame. It's an absolutely enormous branch. Look how good it was, but it completely ripped off. So that's a real shame. And I'm just wondering whether I need to do any other pruning because it's quite wide. Can we see this one here? It goes all the way out here. And I just feel like maybe it's really top heavy and I need to prune that back. So I'm going to be brave, and even though it's a really nice shape and I like it, I'm going to chop it back. There's a really nice upward facing branch there, so I'm going to chop it back to there. Ooh. Taking a lot off, but I feel like it's very whippy and it would just keep breaking. So now I need to deal with that side over there. Let's have a look at that, because again I feel like this is quite whippy. It is creating a really nice amount of shade though. Feels like such a shame to be doing this. Oh, I've just seen another one that's broken. Okay, so this definitely needs doing because this one here, it's broken up here. So I didn't even realise that had happened. Wow, I'm standing under what I would describe as a really nice canopy. I'm loath to cut it off, but I feel like I'm going to have to be brave, otherwise all the branches will break in the storms. Maybe they just weren't strong enough. I don't know. I don't know what to do. I feel like it's lopsided, so I have to cut this side off too. So, 1, 2, oh. And 3. Okay, that was really hard to do. Let me show you how much I've cut off. But this is what's left. and hopefully it's just not going to be so whippy. I feel like it was just whipping around in the wind and all the branches were going to snap off. Okay, so that is a much better shape. That's how much I've cut off, so that's quite significant, but it really needed it. It was whipping around too much in the wind. I think it's an improvement. I'm really hoping that I've done a good job and that it's going to be happy. But I guess we'll find out next year when it's time for it to blossom. It's going to put on lots of growth this summer anyway, so it should be fine, and I'll give it a feed. So that's it for today. I've done everything that I needed to do. I mean, obviously there's reams of weeding to do, and we still have dahlias and annuals to plant and things like that, but those will be in future videos. I really hope you've enjoyed coming along with me today as I've done my little garden chores, and maybe it's been interesting and inspired you to get out there and do a couple of jobs yourself. I hope you're all having a lovely day. It is gloriously sunny here in South Bucks today. It hasn't been, it's been raining non-stop, and we have got slugs and snails coming out of our ears. Well, not literally, but there are so many pests at the moment. I really need some water in this garden so that I can encourage frogs and hedgehogs and things that eat slugs and snails into my garden. Anyway, I really hope you've enjoyed it. If you have, do give it a like. Let me know in the comments what you think about what I've done and how the garden's looking. I love chatting to everybody, and if you'd like to see more videos like this and you're new to my channel, then do subscribe. So thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all next time.